We'll start off with a blank canvas. I like to use a 5 by 7 inch canvas for my animations. If this is the first time you're using Photoshop to animate, you will have to open up the timeline window. To do this, you click on Window up top, and then scroll down to Timeline. When the timeline opens up, you click on that small arrow in the center and select Create Frame Animation. When you do that, a box will pop up labeled 1. This will be the first frame in your animation. Under that white box, click on the little arrow where it says 0 seconds, and click on that and choose 0.1 seconds. This will determine how quickly each frame moves from one to the next. 0.1 is pretty standard, but you can easily adjust it depending on your animation. Now that the timeline is set up, it's time to prepare a canvas for animation. I've already started by drawing a black line in the center, which will basically act as our horizon line. Next, I will add a new layer and title that one as Path. This will mark the path that our ball will travel. I'm doing this by drawing one X in the starting position and another X in its finishing position, and then connecting those two X's with a dashed line, which will be our path of travel that will follow. Once we do that, we are ready to start drawing the frames. Each frame we draw is going to be one individual layer. I'm going to use a red to draw our ball. We'll start off with the resting position, which is just a plain circle right on top of the first X. The next two frames I'm going to draw are a little more flattened as the ball prepares to jump. Next, the ball begins to unflatten as it jumps towards the right, stretching out as it flies through the air. Drawing the ball in all different shapes gives the illusion of movement in your animation, in addition to adding life to what would otherwise be an inanimate object. The squishing and stretching that we're drawing may not be as apparent if you are looking at a ball bouncing in real life, but for animation it's a crucial part. Otherwise, it would just be a circle floating around on the screen with no real feeling to it. Be sure with every new ball you're drawing, you're making a new layer for it. This will be very important when we begin creating new frames. At the highest point when the ball hits the middle of the curve, we want the ball to be in the same circle shape as it was in its resting position. As the ball descends, you will basically be drawing a flipped over version of its ascension. When the ball lands on the second X, make sure to flatten it out like you did when you first drew the ball jumping, and then draw it to unflatten so it's in its normal position. Now that we've finished drawing every motion of the ball, it's time to assign each layer we drew to a frame in our timeline. This, I am going to hide every single layer we've drawn, with the exception of our very first layer, Layer 1. Layer 1 will be the ball that will be assigned to frame 1. Any layer that is not visible right now will not be shown on frame 1. Now, we're going to click on Create a New Frame at the bottom of the timeline, and create frame 2, which right now is a duplicate of frame 1. What we're going to do to make sure layer 2 is assigned to frame 2 is that we're going to hide layer 1 and then unhide layer 2 so that layer 2 will be the only ball on frame 2. You repeat these steps until every layer you drew has a frame assigned to it. I know it seems a little complex, but if you number everything accordingly, it will go so much smoother. Layer 3 goes with frame 3, layer 4 goes with frame 4, and so on. Once every layer has a frame, you can click on the play button at the bottom of your timeline and play back to see if there are any bugs you need to work out. If everything checks out okay, then congratulations! You've successfully made your first animation. Now it's time to save it as a video file to share it with everyone. To save your animation as a video, go up to File, choose Export from the drop-down menu, and then select Render Video. When the render screen loads, hit Render on the right side and wait for the video to export. Once the video fully exports as an MP4 file, you can now send your video to all your friends and show off your animation skills.